It began with a flicker of subtle, almost imperceptible blip on my home energy monitor that most people would have dismissed as background noise. But I'm not most people. My name's Daniel Harper, a 38-year-old electrical systems engineer who spends his days designing power grids for high-stakes data centers and his nights tinkering with a solar array that keeps my modest suburban house humming. Electricity isn't just my job. It's my obsession, my silent symphony. So when that flicker showed up, a phantom 1.9 kilowatt-hour drain between 1 o'clock and 3 a.m. For 3 nights straight, I didn't ignore it. I couldn't. It was like hearing an off-key note in a song I'd written myself. I live in Willow Creek, a quiet little neighborhood where people take pride in their manicured lawns and argue over whose compost pile smells less offensive. It's the kind of place where you'd expect petty squabbles about mailbox colors, not covert power theft. But that's exactly what I stumbled into, and it all pointed to my next-door neighbor, Vanessa Reed, a woman who strutted through life like she owned the cul-de-sac and everyone in it. Vanessa had moved in 2 years earlier, fresh off a divorce that left her with a teenage daughter, a bloated sense of entitlement, and a knack for turning minor inconveniences into neighborhood dramas. She was the type who'd wear designer sunglasses to water her petunias, her voice cutting through the air like a chainsaw as she barked orders at her kid or complained about the riffraff, her word, who dared to park too close to her driveway. Her latest obsession was her daughter Mia's electric dirt bike, loud, garish thing that roared through the streets like a teenager's middle finger to peace and quiet. I'd seen it parked in their backyard, hooked up to a charger, but I hadn't thought much of it until that orange extension cord caught my eye. It was a Saturday afternoon when I first noticed it, trimming my hedges near the back fence that separated our properties. The cord slithered over the wooden slats like a neon snake, disappearing behind my tool shed. I froze, squinting at it. No way, I thought. I didn't have any outdoor outlets back there, none that she could have accessed without trespassing. But the coincidence was too glaring. The cord, the timing of those overnight power dips, the dirt bike's constant presence. My gut told me Vanessa was leeching off my grid, and my brain demanded proof. That night, I ran a test. I flipped off all my exterior breakers except only single circuit tied to the shed and waited. At 2:14 a.m., my monitor pinged, a 1.9 kilowatt-hours dip, right on schedule. I slipped outside with a flashlight, careful not to wake my dog, Baxter, who'd bark at a leaf falling if given the chance. Sure enough, the cord was gone, retracted back over the fence like it had never been there. But I wasn't imagining things. I snapped a few photos of the fence line, the shed, and the faint scuff marks in the dirt where someone had been sneaking around. EVY Denke, step 1. The next morning, I decided to play it CIVYL. Maybe it was a mistake, maybe Mia had plugged in without Vanessa knowing. I walked over to her house, a 2-story monstrosity with tacky faux Roman columns, and rang the bell. Vanessa answered in yoga pants and a tank top, holding a smoothie that probably cost more than my weekly grocery bill. Her blonde hair was pulled into a messy bun, and those oversized sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. "Hey, Vanessa," I started, keeping my tone light. "I've been noticing some weird power drains at my place lately overnight, around 2 a.m. Any chance someone here might have tapped into my outlet by mistake?" She blinked, then flashed a smile, so fake it could have been plastic. "Oh, that? Yeah. We borrowed a little juice while our garage panel's getting fixed. You got all that solar stuff, right? Figured you wouldn't mind." I forced a laugh, though my jaw tightened. It's not really about minding, it's about permission. And it's not how electricity works. It throws off my system's balance. She waved a hand, sipping her smoothie. "Relax, Dan. It's not like we're hot wiring your car. Just a little charge. You're so technical about everything. Stealing power's not technical, it's illegal." I said, sharper than I meant to. "I'd appreciate it if you'd ask next time." Vanessa smirked, patting my arm like I was a kid throwing a tantrum. "Lighten up. We'll sort it out." Then she shut the door in my face. I stood there, fuming. She hadn't denied it, hadn't apologized, just brushed me off like I was the unreasonable one. Back home, I checked my logs again. Another dip at 2:07 a.m. She hadn't stopped. She'd mocked me and kept going. That's when I decided CIVY Lighty was off the table. If Vanessa wanted to play games with an electrical engineer, I'd give her a masterclass she'd never forget. I spent that night in my workshop, a converted garage filled with circuit boards, soldering tools, and enough spare parts to build a small robot army. I sketched out a plan, a decoy outlet, wired to look tempting but rigged to deliver a lesson. It had to be legal, safe for humans, and devastating for her equipment. I settled on a custom impedance circuit, tuned to fry anything pulling more than 3 amps too low for most household appliances, but perfect for an overtaxed dirt bike charger. The beauty was its subtlety. No fire, no danger, just a quiet, surgical strike against her theft. By Monday, I'd installed it. The fake outlet sat near the shed, slightly weathered to look forgotten, its wires hidden beneath a false panel. I tested it with an old drill pop, a faint spark, and the motor was toast. Perfect. Now I waited. 3 nights later, my trap sprang. At 2:19 a.m., my monitor spiked. I crept to the window, peering through the blinds. A blue flash lit up the backyard, followed by a sharp crack like a firecracker going off. Then came the scream. Vanessa's voice, shrill and operatic, ripped through the night. What the hell is this? I bit back a grin as her porch light flicked on. Mia stumbled out in pajama pants, clutching the smoking charger, her dirt bike now a silent heap under a tarp. Vanessa stormed after her, barefoot and furious, yelling about sabotage and that psycho next door. I sipped my tea, watching the chaos unfold. The circuit had worked flawlessly, her charger was fried, her night ruined, and I hadn't broken a single law. But I knew this was just the opening salvo. Vanessa wasn't the type to slink away quietly. The next morning, she was at it again, stomping around her yard in slippers, phone pressed to her ear. I caught snippets through my kitchen window, deliberate attack, and almost killed my baby. By noon, a guy from the HOA showed up in my door, mid-40s, polo shirt, clipboard, the whole bureaucratic package. He introduced himself as Todd, the compliance officer. You can't install unauthorized electrical devices along a shared boundary, he said, barely looking up from his notes. It's a safety hazard. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. It's on my property, wired to code, and only a hazard if you're stealing power from it. Which, by the way, is what Vanessa's been doing. I've got logs and photos. Todd frowned, scribbling something. She says you booby-trapped it, nearly electrocuted her kid. Her kid plugged into my outlet without permission twice now. If she's got a problem, tell her to stop trespassing. Or call the cops. I've got nothing to hide. He muttered about further re-VYEW and left. I figured that'd be the end of it, but Vanessa had other plans. That afternoon, a police cruiser rolled up. The officer, a stocky guy named Martinez, listened as I explained everything, showed him the footage, the logs, the schematics. He chuckled halfway through. She didn't mention the stealing part, he said, shaking his head. This looks like utility theft to me. You've got a solid case if she pushes it. She won't stop, I said. She's too stubborn. Martinez shrugged. Her funeral. Keep that EVY Denke handy. He drove off, and I caught Vanessa glaring from her porch, latte in hand, plotting her next move. She escalated because of course she did. The HOA hit me with a DULA 300 fine for hazardous modifications, claiming I'd VY OLAT some vague bylaw. I fired back with a formal complaint, attaching every piece of EVY Denke I had, and CC'd the city utility board for good measure. But Vanessa wasn't just fighting mesh, was digging her own grave deeper than I'd realized. A few days later, my neighbor Rick, a burly guy with a passion for barbecue, stopped by while I was tweaking my solar panels. Hey, Dan, you ever notice your lights flicker around 2 a.m.? I paused, wrench in hand. Yeah, why? My grill's been losing power overnight. Thought it was a short, but now I'm wondering. That sparked a hunch. I and VY Ted Rick and a few others Lila from across the street, then Gwen's next door for coffee and a rundown of my findings. When I showed them a footage of Mia sneaking around, jaws dropped. Lila gasped. My garden lights reset every damn night. I thought it was squirrels. Then Gwen's chimed in. Their garage freezer had thawed twice in the last month, costing them hundreds in spoiled food. Rick swore under his breath. That little punk's been hitting us all. We formed a plan. I helped them set up monitors, lockboxes, even a few decoy cords of our own. Within a week, we had a group chat, Vanessa's Volt Vampires, and a pile of EVY Denke. Timestamps, VY Deos, power logs. She wasn't just stealing from me. She turned the neighborhood into her personal power grid, juicing up Mia's bike, party lights, even a portable hot tub someone spotted at her last girls' night. The showdown came at the next HOA meeting. Normally a snooze fest about fence heights, this one was standing room only. We presented our cast of screenshots, footage, a 20-page report I'd typed up. Vanessa sat up front, arms crossed, smirking until Rick played a clip of Mia plugging into his outlet. The room erupted. She tried to spin it, it's just community resources, but the board wasn't buying it. They suspended her PRIVY legies on the spot, fined her due law 1,000, and promised a full investigation. That should have been the end, but Vanessa couldn't let it go. She filed a harassment suit against me, claiming I'd targeted her family. I countersued for theft, backed by the utility board's audit, showing she'd siphoned over 4,000 kilowatt hours across 6 properties, nearly due $2,500 worth. The city slapped her with a criminal charge for meter tampering, and the HOA piled on with more fines. Her empire crumbled fast. Mia sold the dirt bike to pay legal fees. The party stopped. Neighbors shunned her, and her daughter took up yard work, a far cry from her rebel days. One spring day, Vanessa approached me while I was fixing a panel. No sunglasses, no bravado, just exhaustion. "I owe you an apology," she mumbled. "For what? The theft? The lies? The lawsuit? All of it," she said, barely audible. "I didn't think it was a big deal." "It's never small when you steal," I replied. "Especially not from people who trusted you." She nodded, defeated, and shuffled away. I didn't forgive her not yet, but maybe it was a start. As I watched the sunset that night, the neighborhood felt different. Quiet, connected, peaceful. Sometimes I realize you don't just find peace, you build it, one wire at a time. And if someone tries to take it, you make damn sure they feel the shock. If you were the one in this story, how would you react? Would you stand up and fight back, or accept the unreasonable pressure and control from the HOA? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this VY Deo with more people. Your small action gives us the motivation to keep bringing you more intense and engaging stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next VY Deo.